Hi, this is Doris Hammond for XS8. With me tonight is Pierce Bunce from the North American Wheelchair Athletic Association. Hi, Pierce. Thanks for coming down and talking to us.
Hi, Doris. Thanks for having me.
The other night, I was introduced to something I have never seen before, and that was the wheelchair basketball game.
Exactly.
Yeah. Can you tell us something about it?
I can tell you a lot about it because I've been personally involved in wheelchair basketball for 18 years now. The history, wheelchair basketball started on the East Coast and the West Coast in the Bronx VA Hospital and Long Beach, California. There was a need there that the guys came back and they had all this energy and they were able-bodied at one time, like myself.
Right.
A lot of people will say, well, this guy is sitting in a regular chair here during this interview. And that's correct, you know. Thank God that I am, because I was one of those disabled in the Vietnam War when I was shot with a machine gun. But getting back to the history, that's how it started, and the guys would travel around the country playing one another in exhibition games. And from that, it grew until today. There's over 128 teams today.
Now, you started this game over at Delaware Valley, right? You got this one going.
I got this one going. I spoke to some of the businessmen in the area. One of the guys who was instrumental was the owner of Talk of the Town Deli. His name is Steve. Steve and I talked about 2 years ago. And at that time, people were hesitant to have a wheelchair basketball game.
Right.
Why? Because those guys in chairs might get hurt.
Exactly.
Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not realizing that the guy in a chair, as you well know, being a wheelchair user, is more of aware of his surroundings or her surroundings than anyone else.
That's right. That's
All
true.
right? So that kind of mindset, we'll call it, prevented the game from going off. And that's okay because it finally did come to fruition. What had happened was I met with the Lions about 3 months ago, and I spoke to them. And I told them that you'll have a great time.
It was great. It really was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Still then they were hesitant. I knew they were a little hesitant, but I kept that positive reinforcement that I have a good time. People's awareness are going to get raised, and I know that everyone's was. There were a lot of comments after the game as to what had happened, and they were amazed by the ability of the players.
And they won. The handicap players won.
The handicap, yes, but they're not really handicapped. They just
Well,
happen to use a
true.
wheelchair.
That's true.
All right, like I use the wheelchair for the things that I cannot do, and so does everybody else, like yourself. You can't get around without the chair every day. Without it, you'd be sitting at home.
But it just shows you what can be done in a wheelchair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
How did you get the sponsors?
We got the sponsors. We asked some of the businessmen, the bankers, and real estate guys, and businessmen, especially those guys. They won the game.
Yeah.
I say they won the game because we were like the medium team between the two. It was bankers, lawyers, real estate against the businessmen of the area. The businessmen, they're a little more physical, and they won, and that's why. They're used to the physical work, and that's the exact reason.
All right. All right. Okay. You played. This was your first game, right, at Delaware Valley, that you played out.
It was our first game in the area. This kind of fundraising has been going on for a while. I've been involved in it at the Meadowlands, where we have lawyers from the area, Passaic, Bergen, and Union counties, come together and we'll do an NBA game, wheelchair basketball style, after the Nets play. Like the last game was with Boston. Right after that game, we sat down and played until 12 o'clock at night. But we also had, in 2 games, we had 2 nights of that, we had 80 lawyers participate. So it raised a lot of funds, and it was a nice thing. And over here we raise money too. We raise money for the Lions to do their activities, and we raise it for what we do. And that's role model programs for children with disabilities.
How long do you give the people that are playing, the sponsors, right, to learn how to use a wheelchair, how to play this game?
But what I did, and I found out over the years, the best way to do it was to let somebody actually sit in the chair, have 1 or 2 nights worth of practice with an expert.
Okay.
In doing so, now that anxiety themselves that they would have about sitting in a wheelchair, they've overcome that. They've seen that, wow, I have a great time, you know, because they had 2, 3, 4 hours to work that out of themselves. And that's why that it was such a great game the other night. They actually sat down in the chair, got to see what it was all about, and had a good time.
It was great. It really was. Can you name some of the players?
Well, on my team, there's a local guy. His name's Frank Day. He lives right here in Port Jervis. Frank's been playing approximately 17 years. Frank was a disabled Vietnam veteran who got, well, he was disabled by a satchel charge. It blew his leg off and injured the rest of his body with shrapnel. There was also 2 other amputees. Jerry Fleming, they'll remember, he was one of the big guys there, number 13, and number 55, John Harkins, both amputees. There was also another local boy. His name's Ian Knox. He lives in Milford. He was born, I believe, I don't want to misquote, but I think he had spinal bifida when he was born, and that prevented him from walking. But he's also, I'm sure a lot of the people know him by seeing him around the area, wheeling around. He also, now he's graduated from high school, and he works right in town there at the answering service. I'm not sure of the name. And then there was myself, who was also disabled in Vietnam when I was shot with a machine gun 6 times. That left me pretty disabled that I couldn't participate in regular sports anymore. And at that time, I felt competitive was over.
Right.
Competitive whatever was over. So it was an excellent sport for me to get involved in.
And your son also
My son
played?
PJ, he also played. That was like one of his dreams, actually. So yeah, a wheelchair's always been like a new thing, you know, another, like a bicycle. Let's
Right.
put it in those terms. Riding a bicycle, riding a bike that costs $1,500. All right? A lot of people don't realize that $1,500. Where does somebody get the money for that chair? That's why they don't have the best.
You had one boy there. He showed how to pick the basketball up with the wheelchair. Okay?
Jimmy.
Jimmy. Okay. I've seen him do other things. He's excellent. He's been in the wheelchair a long time, right?
Well, Jimmy was in Vietnam like myself 20 years ago. He was born there. At the age of 3, he was shot in the back by a stray bullet, leaving him paralyzed from the lower lumbar region down. Jimmy was fortunate, though. He had some nice parents in the United States adopt him.
He's remarkable. I've never seen anything like it, the way he played and what he could do. Who sponsors, or who gives us the wheelchairs, gives you guys the wheelchairs? Was that the Lions Club? Did they donate them for the night, or no? You?
No.
That was
I was fortunate enough that a wheelchair company called Motion Design from California donated those wheelchairs to me last year, $15,000 worth of wheelchairs.
Oh, they are yours then?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Yes.
Great. I thought maybe someone donated them for the night. That's great. And I know they're a lot different. There's no sides, very little back, and the wheels are out.
Well, the wheels are cambered like this, just to get an idea. People are used to seeing wheels straight. They're on a camber, and increases your turning ability. As you might have noticed, I was fairly cambered with my wheels.
Right.
Yeah. They're not now, okay, that's another good point right there. That chair is what they call an active duty lightweight chair. What that does, it means like yourself, the everyday user. Now, through sports, initially, this is how it came to be. Through sports, the chairs have come a long way.
They're
They
a lot
don't-
lighter.
A lot lighter,
Yeah.
more mobility. The wheels pop off with the press of a button. They're easy to take apart, put into the trunk. Yeah, like the axles. Bingo.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Now, how long have you played? You played, what'd you say, 18 years?
18 years.
Do you do any other sports?
Well, let's put it this way. I play at tennis because I'm not really involved because that's another time commitment.
In a wheelchair or no?
In a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I can't do it on
I
my...
tried that. It didn't work.
Tried it. Wheelchair tennis, if you think about it, the ball's past you.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah.
It's really amazing.
I like volleyball. I did play that for a while.
Volleyball's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I've run a little bit in the chair. Well, they call it pushing. And that's another wheelchair altogether, totally different from the everyday chair. It's designed just for races, period. They're very light, too, about 12 pounds.
So you had a good response that night, and you will play more games, right?
We'll play more games, without a doubt, because
Locally? Because this is the first time I've heard of it in this area and the first time I've been to the game. And I really enjoyed it. I really did.
people don't realize for the first time game, it was very excellent turnout and the enthusiasm that was there.
Yeah.
It was an excellent game. It really was. Everyone had a good, comfortable time.
Hmm.
They weren't anxious about the chair.
They were really rooting like crazy. It made you feel good. It really did. I'm sure it made the guys feel good too.
Yeah, oh yeah, without a doubt. And I know all the sponsors had a nice time too. Another thing we did for them, we gave them 10 points a quarter. All right. 3 points a shot, and the 3-point range, that line around the floor, that's the 3-point line, was 4 points for them. One of the guys got one too.
Did he?
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny.
You have extra players, just in case?
We do.
I know you had 2 teams. The sponsors, there was 2 teams.
There were
and-
actually 2 teams from the sponsors. One
Yeah.
was, like I said, the businessmen against the lawyers, real estate people, bankers.
But there was no one to fill in for any of the other guys in the wheelchair on your team, right?
Well, we had 2 extras.
Oh, you had 2 extras?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I was one of them.
Oh, okay.
Right here, we're demonstrating how to dribble the ball, pick the ball up off the floor. The process is, watch this now. What he's going to do is it's very simple. Just take the ball into the side of the wheel, and it comes right up into a dribble. He's demonstrating it again. He likes to go behind his back here. This guy, by the way, was also in the Seoul Korea Olympics this year, Paralympics. He won a gold medal and a bronze in swimming. Right here, the game's just about to start, and as any other basketball game, it starts with a jump ball. It's the only jump ball of the game. The rules of the game are played collegiate rules. Except tonight we're playing 12-minute quarters because we had 22 sponsored wheelchairs who donated to play in the game tonight. They're just discussing which way they're going to go. We're going to be going down to your right. Stage left for those people in the industry. That play you just saw is a typical set play in wheelchair basketball. The tap goes out and the fast break down the court usually ends with one shot. The people in yellow are, this team is team number 1. They are, the rules in wheelchair basketball are very similar, as I said earlier, to that of college. The difference is the dribble. Dribbling, you're allowed to push the wheels twice. Then you must dribble the ball at least once, pass, shoot, or whatever you want to do. Continue your dribbling sequence. Also, the painted area is called the key. That's from the foul line down to the backboard. In college ball, it's 3 seconds. Wheelchair basketball, it's 5. Also, in a normal game, we have set plays just like they do in college. We play 2 types of defense. One is man-to-man. The other is zones, various types of zone defense. All these people in yellow are able-bodied players like yourself who were afforded the opportunity to have 2 nights of practice to get them ready for the game. It was advantageous for them because in doing so, they were able to play a comfortable game rather than an anxious game. They all had a good time. One of the other things about these wheelchairs are active duty lightweight chairs. They weigh approximately anywhere from 16 to 26 pounds, which is a great improvement since I started playing the game 18 years ago, when a sports chair was just a regular hospital chair. Here's a good fast break. And he made the shot. Great. Back 18 years ago, the wheelchairs that people would be using weighed 55 pounds. As you can see, that the weight is half that today. And that technology has also helped the everyday user, and also the people that live with the everyday wheelchair user. If you're 65 years old and you're putting a chair in the trunk that weighs you as old as you are, it's quite a task. As I was saying, these people in yellow, they're all able-bodied people playing in the game. Some are also eligible to play wheelchair basketball, it turns out. 2 of the players had a series of knee operations, which makes them eligible because they can't run without their legs coming out of joint. Another thing in the game, what we did to make it a fairer game and more interesting for the crowd, we spotted the team 10 points a quarter, and every shot they made was 3 points. Outside the 3-point line was a 4-pointer, which, if you've ever played basketball, think of a 3-point shot in a wheelchair as almost being out at half court. The team we had tonight playing for the North American Wheelchair Athletic Association consisted of 3 amputees, 1 spinal cord injured, 1 orthopedically disabled, and 1 player who had spinal bifida. And that's another thing. Most people don't realize that wheelchair basketball and all wheelchair sports are played by those that are part-time users in wheelchairs. You can't participate on your feet, but you can participate in the sport of your choice due to classification systems.
Got it. Can you tell us a little bit about what's done with the money that you raise?
Sure. The monies that were raised for the Lions, I know that they do stuff for the blind and some worthy causes locally in Milford, Dingman's, and I'm sure wherever it's needed. Our program goes for, as I mentioned earlier, the role model program, where we go into schools and we give a workshop for able-bodied children. Also, disabled, it depends. I like to do workshops where we have both disabled and able-bodied. Why? Because we all live here together.
Right.
The
Exactly.
idea is, don't look away from your friend who has a disability. He might have more ability than you in many, many ways. What we'll do is I or one of the other guys who's a basketball player will play basketball with one of the children who's in the chair, full-time or part-time. What we'll do is we'll play the varsity, and you know who wins the game.
Mm-hmm.
We do. The
Mhm.
varsity players, they're enlightened greatly by what an ability it takes to use a wheelchair on that level. I've played stand-up basketball and wheelchair basketball is the hardest game. It's all upper body. Everything. Pushing, shooting.
I could never do it. I was amazed. I really was.
You might be able to.
Yeah.
No.
I don't know. Maybe I'd try out sometime, but I don't know. It seemed quite hard. It really did.
It's like anything else. You have to practice and practice and practice. And when you're tired, you practice some more.
Yeah, you practice some more.
Oh, yeah. Many hours. We've traveled around the country doing it. I've traveled from here to California, Puerto Rico.
You
It's
do?
a very competitive sport on the level that we play it on. The other night was fun, all right? The reality was we didn't play those guys hard, all right? We didn't. If we had played them like we play a professional, well, I consider myself a professional in that I've 18 years, I've played it hard and put in the time. Recreational is when, like I said, I play recreational tennis. I'll play at it. I don't have the time to devote to it. But I could play on any team in the country. There's no doubt in my mind. And
But
I'm
like you
not just
said-
saying that for my ego, because it's not that. I'm just saying it's ability again.
But you practice.
Oh,
Takes a lot of
yes.
practice.
Mhm.
There's so much going on, like, I was not aware of what this game was like. Talking to you, I was not aware of everything that's going on that we don't know about. For the handicapped wheelchairs, like you talked about a log cabin. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The log cabin, okay? If you're a wheelchair user, you can go camping now in Pike County at Spears Elgibar. It's the camp over there. It's on Route 739. It's not far from here at all. 5 years ago, they asked me if I knew of anyone who would be interested in a wheelchair-accessible log cabin. I said I would be, because I was working with a paralyzed veterans group at that time. That's all they needed to get a grant for $10,000. The cabin's now in existence, and anybody can use it.
That's
I
great.
recommend
See?
doing it too.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. I had 3 or 4 camping trips with the groups before I left that job.
I never heard of that either. Why isn't this made more aware of? Is there a reason, or is it just me?
No,
Because
I think it's our society. We're so busy with ourselves, we've got blinders on. And we're not taking the time to see what's around us. You know, disabled, if you're not disabled, there's no such thing as disability.
right,
You know what I'm saying?
right.
You know, you see the March of Dimes, or you see Jerry and his kids, this or
Mhm.
that, and then you forget about it.
Yeah,
Unless it
it's a once a
personally
year
affects
thing.
you or your family.
Right. Other
It's
than
not
that, it's a
there.
telethon once a year.
Yeah, and oh,
Yeah.
what a good cause this was.
Right.
But
No.
if everyone's level of awareness would be raised, we never would have had a step in this country. Think about that.
That's right.
It always would have been ramped.
Yeah, that's my problem is the steps. I can do anything. I just can't get up steps. But no one really wants to do much about that either. We're hoping to, but there's a long way to go, and there's a lot that never will be done.
Well,
It's very
there again, if
slow.
every family was personally affected, there wouldn't be any discussion. It would be
Right.
automatic.
People don't realize that so easily it can happen to you or your family. You know.
That's right. We're just a step away or a breath away from a
Mhm.
disability.
That's true.
And it's so true. I could go home tonight and be killed.
That's
in
what
the
I
car.
said. You could fall down the steps going out of
Oh,
here, but
yeah.
people don't realize it, and I think this is why. Once things are made aware of, people will hopefully see it in a different point of view. I hope.
Well, I hope so too.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Okay. What else would you like to add? There's a lot I don't know
Well,
even to ask you.
that's how more or less the program North American Wheelchair Athletic Association got started. Myself and another man, Joe Wolf, we came from different backgrounds and we met on a basketball court, wheelchair basketball. I have a brother who has aphasia, and early on in my life, I was always affected by his disability. So I was always aware, but not to the level of the awareness that I should have been. All right, I was able-bodied,
Right.
okay? My brother was disabled, and that was in the back of my mind. So when I became disabled, I remember the day I was coming back from the Bronx VA hospital, and a Cadillac pulled up and said, "Do I play basketball?" And I thought, these guys are kidding around. I'm on these crutches, you know? So it turned out that they were disabled themselves. Spinal cord injured veterans who had a basketball team, and they were looking for another player. Myself.
That's how this started?
Well, all these things were pieces of the puzzle.
Oh.
And then I saw that Special Olympics. It's a
Mhm.
great program. I don't want to step on anybody's toes at all. But you see here again, the general public says, well, Special Olympics takes care of that, don't they? Well, they don't. You have a child here who has a good computer. His mind works perfectly. His body doesn't. He's not eligible. So he's in a vacuum. So all these parts of the puzzle came together for me and Joe. We met and we had the desire to start a program for these kids that didn't have anybody. But we'll take all the Special Olympic kids also. It doesn't matter to us. We're there just to instill some good feelings, self-worth to these children. These children, they don't have it. They're down. They're down. Well, you know yourself. You grew up. I don't want to turn the interview around.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
But you know what I'm saying? You never had a role model to look to.
Right.
And here we'll come in, and hey, I'm the role model for that kid with braces.
Right.
He can't play on the varsity, but he can be a great athlete in a wheelchair.
I don't know anyone else in a wheelchair. this is what I was saying
know, you told
before.
me that earlier.
I'm surprised. I really don't. I don't know anybody in a wheelchair, and it was the way I grew up, and it's just this is the way it is. Accept it. And now I realize you don't have to accept it. There is things you can do, and when you see the younger ones, you really want to do more for them. You think, you know, they should be able to get along a lot better than we had to, or we are, and we're trying to make it a little easier for them too. But that's what it's all about. Just to try to help out the other guys too. Yeah.
Exactly, that's what it is about.
Yeah. Do any of the players get hurt? I noticed there was a few little.
Not